Today's guest has lived at both extremes of the human experience, from crippling depression and self-doubt to running 76 marathons in 76 days. He has turned his struggles into a mission. He's a father, an endurance athlete, a mental health advocate, and someone who has learned to channel pain into purpose, mainly through running. Josh's story isn't about glory, it's about resilience. It's about what happens when you decide to stop running from yourself and start running for something bigger. Josh Patterson, it's an honour to have you on the podcast today.
God, what an introduction.
Oh.
I don't know why, but the older I get, the shyer I feel in these moments.
Yeah.
It's made me feel quite giddy.
If you want more real, inspiring stories to guide you through life's toughest moments, make sure to follow Goldminds wherever you get your podcasts. We're diving deep into loads of topics like dealing with setbacks, self-imposed pressure, health concerns, and life lessons from high achievers. Season 2 is full of guests who are sharing their life lessons with us, digging into the process behind their golden moment. Follow us and be part of this real conversation. You won't want to miss it. Well, I mean, it's amazing. It's not often that you get time where you get to reflect, just initially on what you've done. You're so in the moment of what you're doing that it's nice to have some words spoken back to you about what you've actually been through.
It's so true. Do you know, I had to write a timeline of all the challenges I've done over the past 7 years to a friend of mine. And they just wrote back and they were like, just reread that back to yourself. Whenever you have a bad day, just reflect on what you've done. And hopefully that'll put a smile back on your face. Because I think it's so interesting how I do look back at certain moments in my life and the things that I've done. And it's so interesting how sometimes it can take years for you to sort of be able to reflect and really appreciate what's been achieved.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's like you're just living off adrenaline.
Yeah, I think it is adrenaline. And if you're a certain mindset, you're always focused on the next and moving forward to the next thing. And you rarely get time. I was the same as an athlete. I never really thought about what I'd achieved until I retired. And I think it can be so simple, like you say, just writing it down and just saying it out loud.
Yeah. See, I think what you do is fascinating because looking at the screen and just being in awe of what you do, and it's almost like just being at the Olympics, for instance, is the accomplishment. And yet so much disappointment, I guess, can come from not finishing in a position that you wanted or achieving that gold medal. And so I was thinking when we were going to have this conversation today where, where do you find success, or, what fulfills you? Is it just being there, or is it actually placing? I don't know. It must be so complex.
Yeah, I think it's different for every athlete. I think some athletes all have that ambition of, I just want to be an Olympian. I want to say that I'm an Olympian, and that will be the pinnacle for them. But I think for myself, it was always, I want to create legacy, and I want people to remember my performances. So I want to get on the podium. I want to do something that's lasting. And I think that's what always kind of drove me and motivated me. And I think every athlete's so different. So your goals just vary from, athlete to athlete.
Yeah.
But with you though, I mean, I read that you've openly spoken about your battle with your mind and your mental health, but then you go and set on challenges like 76 marathons in 76 days. You've probably heard that said to you so many times now, but for me, physically saying that, I can't comprehend how you would even achieve that. It is incredible.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's interesting. I think if anybody's struggled with their mental health, I think for me, it's when you talk about comparisons, I always reflect on some of the most testing moments in my life. And then I look at these challenges that I do. And it's not to sort of devalue the magnitude of it, but I think with reflection, I kind of weigh up the two. And I look at the 76 and I think, okay, well, I wake up and this gives me purpose. I've chosen to be here. We can complete these marathons with whatever time we wish. We're also doing it with people from different walks of life who are fulfilling their own accomplishments within this process too. And ultimately what we're trying to do is raise awareness around a message that still to some is taboo and an incredibly hard topic to be open about. And so when I kind of make that comparison, yes, it is big and I do suffer and it's inevitable that I am going to incur some sort of pain, but it's never ever going to be or outweigh how I felt in those darker moments.
Mm.
And so there are some weird benefits from that where I kind of take those darker moments and I've kind of utilized them, and I almost get like gratitude from it, because to be honest with you, without those darker moments, I wouldn't even be sat here right now talking to you. You know, it's kind of like that domino effect of what it's enabled me to achieve. Now, that's not to say that every person out there will follow the same direction, but I think quite early on, it was a bit of an anomaly where on one hand, you have someone who's been at the point of contemplating suicide, but then is going off and doing these ultras. And maybe that's just the gift that I've been given, or the opportunity I've been given, in order to kind of share my story or articulate my message in a way that a certain demographic can hear it.
And then if we go back a little bit, so for listeners of the pod, you started in Made in Chelsea.
Yeah.
So that was your kind of starting point, as per se.
Yeah.
Firstly, how did you find that whole experience? And how has it shaped you as a person?
Do you know what? I think if you go into an opportunity like that, and I think you have like a distinctive direction of what you want to achieve from it, I think it can be the greatest gift. I think if you go into it as a lost individual without direction, I think it can really complicate your life. And I think that's what's happening with a lot of individuals, because I think there becomes this dependency on whatever show they might be on solely. Whereas for me, it was respectfully always a stepping stone. I wanted to go into this. I wanted the opportunity to be able to travel the world. I think for me that I love travel. And so when I look at the places that we went to, you know, some of them, it was a once in a lifetime opportunity.
And did you find that you had to be almost like there was like two sides of you, or
No,
you
I was
were able
always
to
me.
be you?
I was always me. And I think, I will openly say this. I think sometimes in the industry, your biggest undoing is how sincere or genuine you are. And that's not to discredit people that are successful in this industry, but I think, you know, I'm sure you have your opinions. I think there are certain individuals that probably have less of a moral compass that have gone on to do exceptionally well. And that's just how it is. You know, ultimately you have to make a decision of what it is that you are comfortable doing and what you're not. And I think I always stay true to my values. And sometimes, you know, that might have worked in my favor. Other times it probably would have worked less. You know, when it comes to things like reality TV, ultimately it's an entertainment TV show, and they want to make it the most dramatic and exciting and entertaining piece that they can. And, you know, if you're not willing necessarily to align with certain storylines, then, you know, from a business point, it is what it is. You know, they're not going to necessarily be the happiest people. But I think with anything that you do, you have to be able to walk away with your head held high and go, you know what, I'm proud of what I did.
And so let me move on to your first item though. So the pair of trainers, is that the first item that you've brought in to share with us?
Yes. I mean, that just looks like a pair of shoes, but, you know, it's not necessarily that particular pair, but just like any running pair of shoes. They've changed my life.
But were you always a runner though?
No, I took up running, I think it's just around 4 years ago, or just over 4 years ago.
Okay.
And it genuinely came from a place of, to cut a very long story short, my best friend was paralyzed from a motorbike accident, and I'd spent 2 years in a wheelchair supporting him, doing various challenges to raise awareness and money for the spinal community. But this started to have some like negative implications on my body. It was impacting me. And so I was umming and ahhing of how I could continue this passion for what I was doing. And running was something that I hated. I didn't really, there was no one in my social circle or my family that was a runner. So there was no like inspiration or motivation around it.
You know those mornings when you wake up and you feel like you've barely slept. Maybe your partner's been tossing and turning. Maybe you were too warm, or maybe your mattress has just seen better days. Sleep is where your body rebuilds, your mind resets, and those golden moments are made possible. That's why I've partnered with Simba. Their hybrid mattress is designed with cutting-edge technology to keep you cool, supported, and undisturbed through the night, so you can sleep deeper and recover better. With over 350,000 five-star reviews and more than 100 sleep awards, you can trust that Simba really are the experts in great sleep. So if you've been waking up achy, tired, or just not feeling at your best, maybe it's time to upgrade your mattress. With a 200-night risk-free trial and free next-day delivery, better sleep could literally be at your doorstep tomorrow. Shop at simbasleep.com/goldmines. On this podcast, I'm always inspired by people pushing themselves to the new heights, and that same spirit comes through in David M. Robinson's latest collection. Each design captures a different side of life, and at the heart of them all is the same promise: stylish jewellery crafted to the very highest standards, with a level of detail that makes every piece feel truly special. From day-to-day pieces to iconic collections to bespoke items, DMR has something for everyone. Alongside jewellery, DMR are also retailers of leading luxury watch brands, so it's a perfect place to mark life's milestones. Discover the piece that could mark your own golden moment. Just head to the link in the description. Dream it, make it, love it.
But it was a sport that I liked the fact that it was so versatile. It could take you anywhere in the world and expose you to many different elements. And so I was just like, well, if the whole point of doing something that makes you uncomfortable, this seems like the perfect sport for it. And so, like when I look at those shoes, they've changed my life in so many different ways. They've made me a better father, a better friend, a better son. It's improved my mental health. Those shoes for me just give hope and they give purpose.
What were the first steps though? It's so hard to I'm obviously a runner and I love running and I've run my whole life, but I never ever would want to do a marathon, let alone 76.
Yeah.
So where did it start? Like, what were the first steps? Did you start doing 5Ks? Talk me through what that process was like.
Do you know what? So it's a funny story where I just finished doing John O'Groats to Land's End in the wheelchair. So over 900 miles, it took me just over 18 days. And
how did that impact your body?
Massively. That was in terms of physical and mental suffering. There'll be few things I'll ever do in my life that I think will ever come close to that, because ultimately I'm sat on my legs. Now, if anyone was to just sit on their legs right now, it's going to be relatively uncomfortable unless you are very flexible and you do a lot of mobility work, and your legs will go dead quite quickly. So, at the end of each day, having spent 10 hours plus in this chair, I couldn't even physically walk. My friends would have to literally lift me up, an arm either side, and almost just pull me until sensation would come back into my legs. I would get full body convulsions. So being in that, I've never had that before, where essentially I was fitting, where every muscle in my upper body would just start contracting and I'd lose control, and it was horrible.
Oh, gosh.
I was vomiting a lot, just because when you take yourself to that physical limit, it's a natural reaction. A lot of hallucinations. And it just was brutal. But because of that challenge, it was the first time I'd ever experienced flow state. Or my interpretation of what flow state is that essentially when you surpass the boundary that you mentally have, and then once you've done it, it's almost like you tap into resource, and it enables you to fulfill this physical exertion you never thought possible. I went on one particular day from going an average of 2 to 3 miles an hour, I was physically broken, to going to 15 miles an hour and holding that for 5 to 10 kilometers towards the end of a 60-mile day. I just went into a different space.
Gosh, that's incredible.
So, but that just, again, that's such an asset that I've taken from that. And so when that had finished and I was umming and ahhing about what direction to go to, I just put out a post on social media asking if anyone had any recommendations for a running coach. And I got a message from this girl, and she recommended a friend of hers called Ben Parker, who is one of my closest friends and has become such an integral part of my life. And I remember him taking the meeting and as going to his dad's home. And he asked me what my background in running was, because essentially I had pitched him the idea of running the marathon in every single city.
Okay.
Which he was like, well, that's amazing, but what's your background? And at that time, I'd only ever run a 10K, a 5K with my housemate and good friend Jojo at the time, and then a 10K. And he was just baffled. I think he didn't take it as a disrespect to the sport, but I think he was just a bit baffled by me and whether I was completely deluded. But I think off the back of John O'Groats to Land's End, I think he could see that mentally I had the ability to fulfill this, but from a physical point, and you'll appreciate this, just because you love running doesn't mean that we can. Just
That you can
genetically,
do it.
sometimes some have the ability to just go further than others. Others are a little bit more brittle. So I think he wanted to just test me through a training block just to see how I would fare. And I think quite quickly it was evident that I would be capable of doing it. And so that became the beginning of my journey. That's why I feel passionate about the work that we're doing, because if we can just alter the mindset of the individual, where they maybe put these barriers up where, you know what, I'm going to wait 3 more years to do that. We don't know if we have tomorrow. And so I think that's a big thing for me, and that's why I keep going on with these challenges, because physically, I don't know how long I have left, for my body to continue, sustaining these sorts of things. And so I want to make the most of it now. And I think for me, just one of the things I'm proudest of as well is that when somebody turns around and they go, do you know what? I haven't even really done a walk for the past sort of like year and a half. I've really struggled with my depression. And I just want to say, thanks to the work that you've done, I managed to get 100 steps in today. That is my 100 kilometers or 76 marathons. It's all relative. And, that's why I love having these sorts of conversations, because if one person here today hears this and that inspires them to go on and do their thing, then that's a wonderful thing.
And how is your mental health now, though? Is it something that you obviously have to deal with every day and it's something that you're always aware of? Or do you feel that it's something that, I suppose you never overcome it, do you? It's something that's always with you.
Yeah, my mental health, I think, over the past year at points was probably the lowest it's been in a very, very long time. And that's ultimately what inspired this challenge. It's the symbolic ladder that I've got to try climb to the top.
And is it always a case of whenever you're struggling and, the depression's there and it's affecting you on a day-to-day basis, is it always an area where you would just go to run into a challenge, or do you sometimes have to step right back to protect? And also because you're not doing it behind closed doors, like you're doing it in the public eye and it's on social, and like you say, that brings a lot of like comments and everybody wants to know what you're doing and how you're doing it. And I feel that the world we live in now, it's really hard to protect your mental health when you're in the public eye.
Yeah, it is. So I think you have to set boundaries.
Yeah.
What you're comfortable with. And I think you have to remember that, say, from a social platform point of view, you're there to lay those markers down and not to be dictated to by people. And I think you have to share what you feel comfortable with, but also be mindful that when you do open that door is forever open. So what does that typically look like? From a depression point of view, I wouldn't say I've been depressed for a very long time. I think my therapist a long time ago came out with this term, which is just, it really did change my life, where I remember going in once and I was like, I think it's back. I think I'm really struggling with my depression. She went, okay, so what's the problem? Explained it to her. And she went, okay, if I was to take all of that away right now, would you be depressed? I was like, no, absolutely not. She was like, you're not depressed then. I was like, but I'm ticking all the boxes, all the symptoms of what I've had before. She went, what you are is situationally unhappy.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but whenever I feel down, I look at that and I think, okay, if I was to remove this, rather than just having this quite negative term of depression, it's just, I am situationally unhappy. Anxiety is something that I do live with every day. I'm behaving very well on camera right now, but I'm always like, that's a nervous thing, picking at my fingers or biting my nails. And that's something that I do find challenging to navigate at times. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's just this triggers through trauma that actively come up. But again, just because I'm focusing on the things that help me get through that every day, from a nutritional point, from an environmental point, who I subject myself to, the fact that I'm committing myself to this challenge, for me, it's just, I have a choice, which is just to be sat there and overwhelmed by this mental disorder, or I can do something about it.
I think I've spoken to other guests, and it's very much, when we struggle with our mental health, and there's the signs that we often overlook or we don't know what it means. And it's hard to find, the right people to talk to or to go and seek help, what was the kind of triggering moment for you that was like, right, I actually do need to speak to someone about this because this is not, how I want to be living and it's affecting me day to day?
Yeah, I think for anyone that's listening, I think the key thing is that if you think there's something not right, there's probably not something that's right.
Mm.
And I think we can go through life, and I think one of the greatest gifts anyone can have is just a true understanding of who they are. And I think
Yeah.
that's probably the issue, is that a lot of people don't know who they are. There's probably a misunderstanding of their identity. And I think that's when I wanted to reach out, because I felt and thought differently to other people, and I couldn't really make sense of it. But by having those conversations with someone like Dr. Vidi, who came out with that term of like being situationally unhappy,
Mm.
it really transformed my life of like understanding me and what works for me. So that when I expose myself to a friend, or if I'm in a relationship with someone, I can express myself in a way, or I can say to them, this is what I require from you in this relationship or friendship in order things to thrive,
Mm.
which I think is a fair thing to do on both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah. And did you have to revisit like your childhood? Like, is that something that you found
Yeah.
helpful to go way back? Because I mean, often it's those informative years, isn't
Yeah.
it? When we're little kids and put in different situations and, they have a lasting impact on who we are as adults.
Massively so. I think you have to. I mean, I can give advice now, but this is something that I've utilized. I reflect on my past, and I do relive those moments. Some make me incredibly sad. Some make me very angry. I question why it's happened, but it has, and we can't change the past.
Mm.
And I don't say this because it's easy to do, but you have to do the work on yourself to not allow the past to overwhelm you. I think it's like it's accepting that something has happened and how we utilize it. I'll give you an example. The reason why I'm doing this challenge this year is because last year I lost my godson. He
Mm.
was 3 months old.
Oh.
It was cot death. And one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life is do a speech at his funeral, and his coffin, which was probably no bigger than this,
That's awful.
just kissing it and saying goodbye to him. And I had to look at his mother and father, who I've grown up with, and to think that his mum has carried him for 9 months and has had him taken away with a click of a finger for no reason whatsoever, for me is unforgivable. And so when we talk about accepting what's happened, I look at that moment and I think I can be overwhelmed by that for the rest of my life. And I can allow anger and resentment to take over who I am. But then people aren't going to want to be around me, and I'm probably not really going to get anywhere in life. And so I look at Archie and I think, what is it that he would want? And for me, as his godfather, I want to create his legacy. I want his name to be remembered, and I want him to have a profound impact on this world.
With the FIFA World Cup coming up in Seattle 2026, I've been thinking about the places that give you the best of both worlds, a vibrant city and the space to recharge. That's why Seattle stands out. They call it Mother Nature's City, and you'll see why the moment you arrive. Picture this: a morning run along the waterfront, followed by incredible food and world-class art in the heart of downtown. Few cities let you do all that in one day. Seattle is inclusive, welcoming, and full of energy. It's a city that invites you to explore. Whether it's savouring fresh seafood at Pike Place Market, diving into its legendary coffee culture, or soaking up the views of Phuket Sound and the mountains beyond. Imagine the world's biggest sporting events set against this backdrop of natural beauty and urban excitement. For me, Seattle is a perfect mix of adventure and inspiration. It's at the top of my list, and it should be on yours too. Discover more at visitseattle.org and start planning your perfect summer of football.
And so, with the support of his parents, we're trying to convert something that we can't change, that will forever be a negative, into something that we believe can be a huge positive, because we have to look at the broader world out there, and inevitably there are going to be many parents and family members and friends who are going to be affected by a situation like that, like we were. But we have a choice now, and our choice is to try and make that situation better for those individuals. And so this challenge, I look at Archie and I'm grateful to him for this opportunity to try summit this mountain. And like I said, I was rock bottom in that moment, trying to process what had happened and trying to climb to the top of that ladder. To some seems impossible. And so for me, when I do summit that mountain, it will be testament to the message that it is. And it's not going to be easy, but you have to be able to lean on the people around you. And we are filming a documentary around the challenge. And I think it will highlight the importance of the people around you, because there are going to be times where I may say I don't want to do it and I'm probably going to give up, or the elements are going to be affecting me. And it's going to be those times where I'll have to lean on those individuals and they will just have to give me that forceful push to get there.
God, I mean, team and family and the environment around you is everything when you're doing these challenges. I can't wait to hear more about that. But your golden moment, if we go to your golden moment, is there something, you've brought some items in here to share with us. What signifies your golden moment?
So I know I gave you one, but I would probably say there's two there.
Yeah.
So here we have a letter from the former Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. And he awarded me the Points of Light Award. And, I'm just a random lad from Lincolnshire. And, when you reflect on life, I was a young 20-year-old contemplating suicide. And I look at this now and I just think, God, if I'd have gone through with that day, I would have missed out on every single one of these things. And so if anyone can see this, I hope that they can take hope from it and know that this is possible too. I didn't write a book because I was destined to be an author. The only GCSE, I got 3 GCSEs, one of them was English and I got a C in it, But my story, believed by Penguin, was powerful enough to help or inspire individuals. This letter from the Prime Minister, I mean, to be acknowledged by the most powerful man in the country, I think for me and my family was something that I will remember for the rest of my life. And when you talk about legacy, when I'm dead and gone and my children grow older, these are the things that they can look at and remember me for.
Is that what really motivates you at the moment? Is legacy?
Yeah. When I look back at my time, I think Tano's accident and paralyzed him, and I saw how his life changed. It's not a case of living life in fear, but I think it's just appreciating the time that you have. And so when my time is up, whether that's physically, mentally, or even on this earth, I can honestly say that I made the most of every single second I was given. And even just looking at this now, this gives me an opportunity to just take it in. And, I am just incredibly proud.
You should be. And I think, when you cast your mind back, you just mentioned then about moments of feeling suicidal. Could you ever have imagined in that moment that you'd, not just be sat here, but, in this position where you can tell your story and share these amazing items? Can you imagine, or could you have imagined where you'd come to?
No, I mean,
if someone would have said you'd be running 76 marathons as well.
But I think being sat with you, it's obviously you are you. So I don't think you realize how much it means to the guests that you have coming on here. What you've done for this country and for people, you instill pride. And when people talk about what is it to be British? What is it that we have to be proud of? It's what you do on the largest scale. You've changed people's lives and you've given them hope that they can achieve the same thing. And so for me, seeing you on that screen growing up and being sat here with you right now, when you look back at those moments and I think of when I was my lowest, the fact that I'm on your podcast right now is amazing. It's, this is one of many stories that I look forward to telling, So it's strange that we're talking about these moments when in reality, this is just one of them.
I mean, for me, it's incredible though, because I've been this kind of tunnel vision person for so long and, in my own world of competing and performing. And actually, you take the blinkers off and you open up and there's so many incredible stories. And I've been lucky enough to chat to great people like yourself on the podcast and just hearing your journey. And I think the difference, that life changes like that, like you said, you could be in one position, then you're here and opportunities change. And it's just it's really incredible, and it's so great for more people to hear, everyone's journey and how it varies. I know I keep going on about 76 marathons,
Yeah.
but I want to understand how did you recover, firstly? What was your recovery strategy throughout those days? And what was your training strategy? Like, I know you
Yeah.
started off doing 5Ks,
Yeah.
10Ks, but like how many weeks preparation?
Yeah.
I need to get my head around this because I actually can't imagine it.
Yeah. So the key thing I think with anything that you do is that the question I often get asked by people is, are you not worried about your body? Like you're not
Yeah.
going to be able to walk when you get older. That would be the case if I didn't respect what I was doing.
Mm.
If I'm just going out there and I have a lack of education on running, or I'm going overboard with the volume of training that I'm doing, or you've just touched on it there, I'm not emphasizing how important the rest and recovery element is. If I'm not getting the nutrition right, there are going to be substantial issues. What was really interesting about the 76, when I brought down what I would call like the Avengers of a team, essentially, was you cannot physically train and be fit enough to run 76 marathons. It doesn't exist, in my opinion. The major focus with my team was that when I stepped my foot on that start line, I was injury free and I was rested.
I was going to say, my biggest worry would be that I got ill, I got injured, or I just had a really bad night's sleep the night
This
before and
is
woke
it.
up feeling terrible. And you'd done all that training.
You've done it all. And so it was a case of, so certainly from a running point, there was definitely a weekly distance that had to be achieved. Something that a lot of people neglect when it comes to running specifically, if we're talking about that topic, is strength and conditioning, working out in the gym, focusing on building those isolated muscle groups to withstand the impact that you, again, are inevitably going to be, sustaining throughout the challenge. Things from like a nutritional point of view, what does that look like? So if I'm going to be burning X per day, what do I really need to be doing to be able to sustain that on a daily basis? From a hydration point of view, it's all well and good someone going, we'll just drink lots of water, but that you can actually overdrink it. So how many liters realistically do I need to drink and when should I be doing it? From a sleep point of view, how many hours realistically do I need to be achieving again per night? But then also just being flexible. I'm a father with a growing child, so inevitably it's going to be broken at times. There's a lot of other stresses and commitments going on. So, what was great about the team was rather than just going, this is what the science says, it was actually tailoring it to me, what my requirements were and what was realistic. And I really appreciated that from them. If you go into something and you go, oh my gosh, I've got to do 76 marathons, it's naturally going to be overwhelming. But if you wake up and you go, the only thing, and I don't mean this as in I'm discrediting the magnitude of a marathon, but if you wake up and you go, the only thing I have to do today is run a marathon, you simplify it.
And your daughter, India, what does she think of the challenges? Is she impressed? Most kids aren't impressed by their parents, but surely she must be.
Yeah. Do you know what? I try and involve her in every challenge in a different way. So sort of for the 76, a thing that's become a bit of a thing now, she wanted me to do something so I would remember her. So she painted my nails.
Oh.
So for the first number of marathons until the nail varnish came off, I had these very beautifully painted nails. And I think that's becoming a bit of a tradition now. But I think it's just one of those things where what I do, I don't have any interest in her necessarily following suit. But as she gets older, when she looks at her mum or she looks at me or whoever her role model might be, I would like to think it sets a positive standard for her to follow whatever dream it might be. I think, to be honest, she's very like theatrical. So I think she'll probably go far more into the dancing and the singing, the performing angle. But from a sports day point of view, like she has got the ability to be a very good runner. Every year she wins the hurdles, which is amazing.
Great event.
Yeah, she wins the hurdles. That's hers, and the relay and the 100 seems to be her strongest points.
So maybe could do a challenge together in a few years.
That would be one day. I think when she's old enough, I think if I was to do a final challenge or if that was to be a consistent, I think that would be my dream. And when you look at the 76, the reality is that the I think it's the king gets to give that title of city status. there are going to be more cities.
Mm.
And so until the day I die, I don't know if that could become a family tradition where whatever cities are given the status, as a family, we can continue to run them. So I will officially be the only person in reality to have continued to run every city. So
that'd be cool.
That's the first time I've ever said that. So maybe we lay this here.
It's down. You've
we've
said
now
it now.
planted
You
the
said
seed.
it.
Yeah.
You've got to do it. She must be a massive inspiration for you, though, and a massive motivation. What kind of, say in like 10 years' time, when she talks about you and the challenges that you've done, what kind of role model do you want to be for her? What would you love her to say?
I want her to know that, life is a wonderful thing, but I think she also needs to appreciate that she is inevitably going to face adversity in life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And I think if one of the lessons she can take from me is that wonderful things can come from adversity, then I'd be a very happy man, because I think for every negative that you're faced with, there are a number of positives that can come from it. So don't always see that as a bad thing.
Is that a conversation you'd sit her down and, how old is she? 8?
Yeah.
So she's still so young, but when she's older, would it be a conversation that you sit down and speak to her about just, the importance of protecting your mental health and just the challenges that she might face as she grows up?
I think it's interesting because with the book, I dedicated to her. And I think everything we're talking about right now, I think I almost wrote that book for her so that she can get a better understanding of me as a person. So if anything, worst case scenario was ever to happen, she can understand the life that I lived and I guess my aspirations and what I wanted to set out to achieve in this world. And, if she could continue that legacy in her own tailored way, then that would be a wonderful thing. But, I think it's just highlighting how beautiful humanity is. And I just think in life, when you talk about fulfillment, I think what I've realized is that whenever my focus has been about people, there are endless people in this world that we can support and help. And it's so different with each individual that you're faced with. And so if she wishes to become an actress, what does that look like and how can her work help people? If it's singing, how can her words pull a chord of an individual, save them from a dark day or put a smile on their face when they need a laugh? So, time will tell. Hopefully in 10 years or 20 years' time, she will do that, or she'll have absolutely no interest and think I'm an idiot. I don't know.
That's what kids are like, though, aren't they? They're not impressed by parents, but we hope they will be one day. I suppose that moves us on to your next challenge.
Yeah.
So I know that when this episode actually comes out, it will be the day before your newest challenge.
Amazing.
Which is very exciting.
That's really exciting.
So just tell us a little bit about what you're going to do.
So
I'm nervous for you.
The next challenge is called Sky's the Limit.
Okay.
And it's, I intend on breaking the world record for a marathon at the highest altitude. So I think with the challenges that I've spoken to you about and what a lot of people are probably aware of, we know how far I can physically go.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to how high I can go, it's that uncertainty. And again, it's taking me out of my comfort zone. I think a lot of people will often ask, like after a challenge like the 76, like what's the next thing? Is it going to be bigger? You can't keep topping your challenges. It's not about being bigger or being better. It's about being unique. The jeopardy element to it is so high, and certainly the uncertainty. The current record was done, I think, at Kilimanjaro. Their record was very different. They started at the summit and they ran down.
Right.
So
you're starting.
I'm starting from the base and I'm going to end at the summit.
Okay.
And it's interesting. I mean, altitude sickness kicks in around 2,250 odd-ish meters, give or take. So when you think this mountain's 6,000, anywhere from that point onwards is just unknown territory. And so when you live in London, that also poses a bit of an issue, although we have an altitude chamber. So the primary focus has been London. I did one simulation mountain in Spain. It was in Pico Valletta. And
how did you find that?
It was really eye-opening. I was unbelievably strong in the beginning. And then I would say around the 3,000 meter mark, it was tough. Where I would say there were differences, the gradient for Utarunku, which is the mountain dormant volcano I'm going to be facing, is around 10%. The gradient on this mountain was much higher, the simulation, and it was caked in snow. So getting to the top was a lot harder, and we were almost, instead of just going directly up, we were almost having to work our way sideways.
Yeah.
And so it took longer. But just what I experienced from it was a shortness of breath, chest pains, and my temperament. I became very angry and short fused quite quickly, but I think that was because of a lack of control. But these things are so important to be exposed to, because then you can kind of take away from that and go, okay, well, this is realistically what could happen. How can we focus on that? So, from a physical point, there's not much more that can be done. And I've got the best team around me. And, like I said, this challenge is for Archie. And so in terms of a why,
that's huge.
It means so much to me.
Yeah.
So, the aspiration for this particular challenge is to raise £35,000, and that money will go towards funding 1,000 therapy sessions for parents who have lost a child. So the charity is being set up by Archie's parents, Emily and George. And so, that comes with a pressure and a weight, because £35,000 right now, when the country's in the state that it is a big ask.
You've already done that. You've opened up the dialogue, and you've brought this conversation to the forefront of so many people's minds. And you're also putting your body through extreme circumstances. It's incredibly impressive. And I don't think many people could push themselves to the limits. I know you said if you have a purpose and a drive, then you can do anything. But in all honesty, not everybody can do that. And it's incredible. If it was tomorrow and you're waking up tomorrow morning and it's the day of the summit and the challenge, what will you be saying to yourself? What words will you be saying in your mind if it was tomorrow?
Let's go. I'm you know what? I'm ready. No matter what the elements are, there is nothing going to stop me from summiting that mountain. And so it can throw everything it likes at me. I'm ready to go. And, Guinness Book of Records have given us a specific time. So I have to complete it within 14 hours. And that sounds like a long time. But actually, when you look at the numbers, they believe, based on the impacts of altitude, I'll probably be doing towards the latter stages anywhere from 1 to 2 kilometers an hour.
An hour. Okay.
So it's don't look at it like a typical marathon, but it's one of those things where even if it goes over 14 hours, the world record isn't really the most important thing. I mean, it's great to add to the bigger picture and, the story, but if it takes me 20 hours or 25 hours, that's just what we're going to do. We're going to get that flag to the top. And, I got Archie's tattoo last year, and it's something that I always do when I finish whatever it is that I'm doing, it's the only time I kiss it. And I want to be able to get to the top of the mountain and just kiss that one more time, just look up at the sky.
Gosh, that'll be such an emotional moment, won't it? So emotional. Oh, do you have any feelings because I know before a race, and it's not comparable, but I would feel consumed with nerves and adrenaline and excitement, but a lot of nerves and worry. Will you feel like that the morning of the summit, or are you just purely ready to go and you're driven?
I don't know what you were like before you started the race, but I think there has to be an element of fear.
Yeah.
And I think that fear drives me. I think it's good to have fear, because I think with that, it makes your decision making more decisive. I think there's an element of excitement because I've chosen to be there and it's showtime. It's a wonderful thing, and I get to celebrate it with the people that are around me. And yeah, there is of course nerves, because I haven't ever not completed one of these, and although I have given every ounce of myself, to potentially miss out on that moment that we've discussed would probably be the hardest thing. And I think when people have put their hands in their pockets and they've donated money to a charity and you haven't fulfilled it, I'm sure most people will be completely understanding. But I think from a personal point, I would feel like I've let a lot of people down. So,
well, I think you'll be incredibly successful, and I just want to wish you the best of luck. I'll be rooting for you, and I hope you get to the top with that flag. I've no doubt you will. And what a fabulous cause as well. So I'll be donating after this for sure.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for coming on and being so honest and sharing your story. I really appreciate it. But actually, before you go, don't go yet.
Okay.
I've got some golden quick fire questions if you're up for them.
Yes.
Okay, ready. When is your golden hour? So a time when you feel completely yourself. You just feel, this is my moment.
My daughter's bedtime, when I get to lay next to her,
Oh.
and it's just before I do her songs and we chat about her day, and I just love the things that come out of her mouth. It's just like that for me is what parenthood and fatherhood's about.
That's
it's so
a great
magical.
one. They say all sorts, don't they?
They're bananas.
Yeah, that's a great one. Okay, who's been a golden influence in your life?
Do you know what this is? This is someone that I would love to reconnect with. His name's I call him Mr. Clifford. It was my head teacher at school.
Mm.
And the reason why I want to credit him is that, academically, school was a waste of time for me. I just, ADHD, and I think just in general, the curriculum there wasn't a lot of synergy going on there. And a lot of people gave up on me, and there wasn't a great deal of expectation for me to do well at school or even get a GCSE. And there were many times when I was going through a period in my life where I was very disruptive, where he could have expelled me, and he stuck by me and he supported me through that period of time. And I ended up getting 3 GCSEs. And I remember it so well when he handed me the piece of paper and a tear came down his eye and he's like, we did it. And I'm so grateful for him, because he just showed me that when somebody invests time in you, what that individual is capable of achieving. And I think that as an influence is why I feel so passionate about what I do, because I feel like if I can do 1% of what Mr. Clifford did for me, then who knows what the outcome could be.
Good old Mr. Clifford.
Yeah.
Well,
shout out.
Okay. Do you have a golden moment you completely messed up, but that you can laugh about now?
One thing that I wanted to set myself is when I announced to the world that I was going to run a sub 4-minute mile.
Okay.
And I was only going to give myself like 4 weeks to do it.
Okay.
And I just remember the backlash from people being like, this guy's a complete beep. I'm not going to say the words. And I was like, I've got this. I injured myself in the process of trying to do this. And it was safe to say that I think the closest I got was like a 5-minute 20. And I know that's quite a running specific thing, but I look back at that now and I cringe so hard.
But you can laugh now.
I can now, but I was a complete moron.
We all have those moments. We've all got them. Okay, final one. What is your hidden gold talent or skill that people don't know you have?
I can transform into Will from The Inbetweeners. As in like physically, like as in like if I dress up like him.
Oh, right. Okay.
I'm his doppelganger.
Okay. That is pretty unique. Very skillful. Well done you.
Thank you. With the briefcase as well. Like come Halloween, I'm
That's
central point. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Thank you very much. It's been great to have you on, Josh.
Thank you.